Assalamu alaikum, family. You're tuned into the Sajdah channel, and I am your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. And we are going to have a powerful discussion this morning. I'm going to declare that up front. I was getting my coffee together, and then I had some technical difficulties. So forgive me for being about 6 minutes late this morning. Listen, you still got time to be a friend, tell a friend. We're going to talk about what happens when, as an entrepreneur, you solve a problem and it creates enemies. That's a real reality for a lot of us. So we're going to unpack that today. So we'll be right back. I'll see you guys on the other side of a few short commercials and a beautiful prayer.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Emerging in the wake of racial and social unrest in a period of Black denigration, the Nation of Islam has a long and storied tradition of personal and collective transformation in the lives of its believers. Still, the Nation of Islam and its leader, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, remain broadly misunderstood, understudied, and often misrepresented. Founded in Detroit in 1930 by Master W. Fard Muhammad during the early phases of the Great Migration, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad remains the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam, now led by his national representative, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. There, in the historic Chicago neighborhood of Kenwood, home to the University of Chicago and various Frank Lloyd Wright architectural edifices, boast an array of significant homes and venues important to the study of Black religions. Among these, on the corner of 48th and Woodlawn, is the former National House of the Nation of Islam and the former home of the Nation of Islam's leader, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, now known as the Elijah Muhammad House Museum. The early 20th century home is one of several properties that were owned and operated and built by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in addition to multiple North African-inspired homes that flank the primary residence. The North African-inspired homes, one of which is now the residence of Nation of Islam's leader, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, were commissioned by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to an Egyptian architect. The Egyptian-themed residences, in conjunction with the former National House, collectively narrate a story about the Nation of Islam and its leaders' desire to establish a new religion and way of life for Black people.
He built a nearly $100 million empire with plans to purchase the entire south side of Chicago. He built a nation within a nation. This series will explore the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's impact on religion, health, education, politics, self-improvement, and the significance of women to the Nation of Islam's history. Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome, welcome. You're tuned in to the Sajdah channel. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning. Woke up extremely blessed and highly favored, and just wishing the same for each and every one of you. Today's topic came out of a conversation I was having a few days ago with a client. And we were exploring the concept of what happens when you solve a problem in your community and it creates enemies. And this is something that the layperson or the person who plays around with business wouldn't necessarily know anything about. They don't understand that those of us that fill gaps in our community are constantly dealing with some form of warfare on a daily basis. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Before we do that, I want to make sure you all got your reservations in for the screening and talkback of the Messenger's residence. All you got to do is go to the website, ElijahMuhammadHouse.com or SajdahHouse.com. Click the link and you can make your reservation. The in-person reservations are sold out. So now we have all virtual left, and we hope that you would continue to support. These are ways in which we sustain and help to supplement some of the work that we do. I have not yet launched all of the business yet because we've been waiting to get the house finished. It's a residential house museum, which is a very powerful category in real estate that we have here in Chicago, where we actually have a residence that you can live in or not, but it's a residence. And if the residence was important in some aspect of history, then it can attain historical landmark status. And there's some houses, I remember looking at a Frank Lloyd Wright house that a woman owned, and she had nothing to do with Frank Lloyd Wright, but she was letting people do perimeter architectural tours and things like that. So it's just a really, really cool concept. One of the things we're planning with the Elijah Muhammad house is a lot of amazing, very private, intimate gatherings that are impactful to our community and, inshallah, to the world. And in many ways, those things will be streamed, and you'll be able to tune in from around the world. So if I'm just there having a conversation at the dinner table, very much like the messenger used to do, I want to talk about those talks, those table talks, some of those subjects. If you come there to have dinner, we'll say, hey, today's topic of discussion is police brutality, or today's topic of discussion is what we're talking about today on the podcast. Then we will find places within the history where that conversation more than likely took place, or something like it, right in that historical home. The idea is to bridge that gap between the history and the reality and what's happening today, and give us solutions, right? So that we can escape this system that we are all trapped in, and really turn ourselves around from being trapped in the system to being creators of a system, and to being managers of a system, and to being major contributors to a system. So that's a whole nother subject. But let me get to our topic today. Okay. As I mentioned, this is something that I was having a conversation with a client about earlier this week. And it was really a very deep, I really wish she and I had taped our conversation. And I told her that. I said, we should have taped this, because we were diving into problem solving in our community, and closing a gap in our community, and what happens in our community when you feel a gap. And then next thing you know, I had some notes on this, but I can't find them. But we had the conversation. So I'm going to just tell y'all about it. We're taught in business, and I know I was taught this, growing up in business as a business person, that the best businesses are those that solve a problem. Okay. Those that create, that cover or close a gap. And most oftentimes, larger businesses that create a business, they either create a problem and solve it themselves, or there's an existing problem that is solved. Okay. But many times they're not problems or pre-existing problems in our community. What do I mean by that? Many products, like I said, people will come up with a product and then they'll create a problem. So for example, I created these commemorative Elijah coins. All right. And so let's say I create a problem that says, you got a problem per se, if you don't have this commemorative Elijah coin. And then I build a bunch of PR and a whole big campaign around how this is a necessity. And so it's like taking what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, satisfy or address the needs of the people. A lot of times in industry, they will make a luxury or something like this a need by the mindset that they put out there that we buy into. So you have a lot of people that think they need the new Jordans, right? You have a lot of people who think they need, that new cute Louis Vuitton bag, or they think they need some red bottom shoes. It make you think you need that. And so once you feel like you need that, then they satisfy that need. But in this particular case, we're talking about problems in our community that we are creating goods and services to solve. Okay. So let's say there's certain neighborhoods where there's no grocery store. And you say, hey, I'm coming up with this, I'm doing this grocery store concept, and it's going to be in this particular neighborhood where they have these quote unquote food deserts. Okay. Let's say there's a healthcare desert. Let's say you're in a rural area and you get ready to have a baby, or you're elderly and you get sick, and there's nowhere, the closest hospital is, an hour away. So you and I come along and say, hey, that's a problem. We're going to solve that by building a hospital in this community. Or we're going to solve that by, whatever. Let's say you don't have any gynecologists or OB-GYNs that can help with female issues or delivering babies. And you say, all right, well, we're going to open up a women's clinic or a women's wellness center in this particular area. Okay. I think you all get where I'm coming from with that. This is a problem, and then we solve it. And because oftentimes our knowledge of business is limited to pop culture, or what we see on the internet, or what we see on, television or something like that. It's limited. And so these nuances in business, contractual points, how industries work, the behind the scenes, the battles that people have to fight just to open that business that they may or may not get any recognition for, are oftentimes overlooked. Okay. The way pop culture paints business today, and a lot of people actually teach business from this perspective, is that you got to be this popular person in order to be a top business person. That is one model. So here's what happens. And I want to explain this to you because I know a lot of you don't understand this. I say that because that traditional business person that's out there, that may be in your family, maybe a friend, maybe a relative, they're oftentimes criticized. And even a lot of people are not going into business because they don't understand that this is a business model that I'm about to break down to you. Let's say you become a very popular person. You may be a very popular talk show host, like somebody like Oprah or Charlemagne the God. And you have a job, and you go into broadcasting, let's say, and you become extremely popular. And then at some point, you go into business. That popularity oftentimes puts you in a position where you can create partnerships. And the hope is that when you create those partnerships, that those contractual points are advantageous to you, and that you're not just the face of the brand, but in fact, you are a true partner and a business owner, and it's a real joint venture, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We talk in the art and science of business about the power of partnerships. I had a very powerful partnership in Maryland when we built the wellness centers and the clinics and the surgery center and ultimately the micro hospital. So it's partnerships. So it's nothing wrong with partnerships. But what happens is sometimes we, in our lack of knowledge about business, think that if a person isn't popular, if we don't see them all over the internet, if they don't got millions of people chasing them down the street, then we equate that to mean that they may not be a good business person. So that popularity, that pop cultural joint venture model is one aspect and one manner in which you can do business. But that quiet, millionaire down the street that you don't know anything about is another business model. That person that quietly owns that store on the corner. That person that quietly owns a bunch of real estate. they may not be seen in pop culture. I'll tell you something else. When I came along in the consulting world, it was, and it still is somewhat taboo to have your face plastered all over everywhere, because it made clients nervous because they didn't want their business all the way out there. So you got millionaire attorneys that are not famous. You got millionaire consultings and people who made a good grip for themselves, okay, that you don't know a lot about. So people are solving problems that don't necessarily find themselves in the spotlight. So I want to say that because oftentimes we get so confused about business, and we think that, okay, I don't know that person, but you can have that quiet little coffee shop on the corner and be wildly successful. And sometimes people have never even seen your face. All right. So you don't have to be on Front Street all the time. But here's what happens. Going back to our topic, oftentimes when you solve a gap in our community, you attract big enemies. Why is that? When you have problems or gaps or lack of products and services in a particular community, for example, sometimes it attracts people who monetize on those problems, capitalize on them, prey upon them, and they do everything they can to keep the problem there because they're monetizing it. They're making money off of it. And so if you and I come along and say, okay, there are no healthcare facilities in this particular area. Everybody, including the seniors, they got to go a whole 60 minutes just to get to a doctor. Or you may say there's not enough, healthcare facilities in a particular area. And you may say, okay, what needs to happen then is we need a new one. We need another one. We need an extra facility because the lines are too long. The ER takes forever. I think you guys get where I'm going with that. And so you wonder sometimes, you say, man, I wonder why they don't put a new healthcare facility there. Or I don't know why no one doesn't just open up a grocery store there. Like there's no grocery store for miles. Why not just open one? Sometimes we say, well, what? Well, there are a lot of people sometimes that are preying upon the fact that there is not enough of something in our community. They're playing on that low supply. And so they're preying upon it. So when you do go to the one little grocery store that might be in our community, the prices are higher. When you go to that one healthcare facility that's in your community, again, prices may be higher. And you're treated in a manner that speaks to your desperation. So instead of treating you like there's a supply and a healthy supply, you're treated like that you need us and ain't nothing you could do, and I could treat you like SHIT. You ain't gonna do nothing about it because you ain't got nowhere else to go. And then in turn, sometimes we in our community, we act like that. We come with the poverty consciousness. We come with the lack of self-worth because we don't have access to these goods and services. So when you see that, a lot of times there are industries and business people, conglomerates even sometimes, that are exacerbating that problem and they've become so wealthy and so big that they have a lot of power. And then here comes people like you and I. We come along and say, you know what? This is a problem in our community. It's been a problem since my grandmother lived here. I'm going to solve it. I'm going to open that grocery store. I'm going to open up a clinic, a wellness center, at least an urgent care. And then all of a sudden, here come the vultures. Here come the big, giant enemies. And then we find ourselves sometimes not even knowing that there is an active enemy that is impeding our business. Sometimes we don't even know that. So we're sitting here thinking, man, it's so hard and this is so difficult. And what's the problem? Most of the time, it's because there is, and I know a lot of people say that sounds so conspiracy theorist. Nah, it's not really. Not really. Because if you come in and you solve a problem that they've created, then all of a sudden you take away the revenue. They have a whole institution that is dependent upon this level of revenue with thousands of employees and all these expenses and people with all these dependencies that they've built because they're so used to getting this money. Do you think they're going to easily let you come in with your small business and take a dime from it? A lot of times they won't. And so this is the business warfare. And we're going to continue this conversation on till tomorrow as well, because I want to talk about a lot of different layers of this. But this particular layer that I'm talking about, you have to understand that if you are standing in a gap in any industry, in any space, a gap could be where there is nothing like what you've done before, or a gap can be where there's low supply. But if you find yourself standing in a gap, then you got to understand that you're going to attract and draw enemies. Now, how does a person like me as a consultant and a business developer help you deal with that? First off, we think about it on the front end. So on the front end, we're going to go in and we're going to work on designing systems and processes that will help to, in some cases, mitigate against the risk of that predator who may turn around and get mad because they think that you're taking some of your food, or their food, or you in fact are taking some of their food. So we will strategize. We will look at the industry. It's one of those things that I'm really good at. Because I've been in a lot of different industries, I'm able to see my footprint in terms of being able to see industries is pretty wide and pretty deep. So we will help you strategize so that you are positioned to be an industry disruptor, but also to defend the disruption that you've created. That's one way we do it. We go in on the front end. Sometimes people will come to me when they're already in a situation. And here's the thing. Don't judge another business person if they need your help. And don't judge another business person if there's something that they're going through, because you don't know their enemies. And you don't know that just you stepping up and helping them and supporting them can make a world of difference. So in this particular case, some people come to me when they are already going through some difficulties and they're under attack and they can't figure out where it's coming from. Well, sometimes you just need somebody else to step in. You need another mind, because guess what? Tomorrow, they might be after you. Why is that? Remember, America's falling. America is morphing and changing, and the global economy is sucking the system that we knew previously as America up into it. So things are changing, right? And so when things are changing fast, you have a lot of people, as they're falling, they're trying to cushion their fall. They're grabbing at everything. They see their boat sinking. They're throwing people overboard. Forget this DEI, forget this, forget that. We trying to survive. And so today they may be attacking me, but tomorrow they may be attacking you. So one underlying concept that we got to understand, as I'm going to say specifically as Black people, because that's the artist that I'm most concerned about right now, but as people who are even on the other side of these predators, you don't have to be Black. We have to understand that today it may be this person and tomorrow it may be that person. Why? Because the whole ship is sinking. The whole entire universe of America is morphing and moving and changing and being sucked up into a more global economy. So they're all scrambling. And so in that scramble, any one of us might get hit. We might go to work tomorrow and they say, oh, the company closed, or we're not there anymore. Well, guess what? We then now, I imagine a world where now we say, okay, let me go to my sister Sajdah. Look, I went to work today. They say that the company is closed. I'm not going to have a job. Then what do I say? I say, okay, come on, let's go. Let's sit down. Let's think about what you can do. Let's strategize. Let's make some moves. That's the world that I envision in. That's what we want to build from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House, where we are using all of the embodiment of his work and teachings that we can get our arms around, which is literally almost impossible, to utilize that to help you and I get to that next level in our sojourn for freedom, in our sojourn for sovereignty and independence. That's the idea behind it. So that's why I'm saying dial back your criticism of the next person when you see them down. Don't kick them. Don't talk shit. Don't become a predator. Don't take advantage, because, they used to say what goes around comes around. But nowadays, it ain't even going around. It's like you next. And it's all because of the way of the world in which we live in today. All right. So when you solve a problem and it creates an enemy, I talked about strategizing on the front end of your business to the extent that you can, because the way business models and systems that we once relied upon are changing and going away. Things are obviously going to be different, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now. How do you deal with the attack when it's happening? And then how do you deal with the effects of the attack after it happens? And I will say this to you. 75% of us that recognize what it is that's happening to them will win, because they'll persevere. They'll fight. They'll find a way to partner with somebody else that maybe can help them. See, because when a person attacks you, they attack you in a way that paralyzes you. But if you got another friend, family member that can come and reach a hand out to you and pull you up, now you're not handicapped and paralyzed anymore. Y'all getting this? Y'all getting this? Thank you, Brother Ronald. When we solve a problem, we can expect that we're going to draw enemies. Why can we expect that? Because in this capitalistic world that we live in, you best believe that the industries of this world have surveyed the earth. That's how thorough they are. They have surveyed the earth and tried to figure out where they can dive in, either create a problem and solve a problem. And their solving of the problem might be something that gives them maximum amount of dollars. Think of the concept of Walmart. And I'm not saying anything negative about this. I'm just telling you this so that you know what you're dealing with. And you got to go and get the art and science of business so that you can raise your awareness of these things. But let's take a concept like Walmart. Walmart started in rural areas. And you know how big Walmart is, and they sell all this stuff. And so it became kind of like the new Woolworth. Some of y'all don't know what Woolworth is, but Woolworth is the same kind of thing, but except Walmart started in rural areas. So some of these little small rural country towns, the only thing you had was a Walmart, because prior to that, there was nothing in that area. Now we see Walmarts. They might be next to Target. They might be, near a Myers or some of these other stores that sell a bunch of stuff. You go in Menards nowadays, they got food and construction and they got all kind of stuff. So you may see them now next to that, but in a lot of places, they are only in that little country town, that little rural area, right? And they solved a problem. I can't promise you, and I'm not going to accuse them of anything, but I cannot promise you that if you decide to open up something similar near a Walmart, that you ain't going to deal with them as an enemy. I can't promise you that. I will tell you that in healthcare, I'll give you a little bit about how that industry works. When you go into these healthcare corridors, many times there's gaps, especially in the area of subsurgical specialties. Okay. So when a subsurgical specialty comes in, oftentimes the big box systems are very angry because they know that they're not giving quality service to their patients in some cases. This is in some cases. And so if you come in and you say, well, I'm a subsurgical specialist, what do I mean by that? You might be vascular surgery. You might just be women's health. You may say, we're going to pop out and just deal with women's health only. We're going to be a clinic that specializes in something. So first of all, the challenges you're going to have is that the system is not really designed to support you. The system is not designed to support independent healthcare facilities, for example. So that's the first thing you're going to find when you go in there. You're going to say, man, what is this? It's just not. It's very difficult for a primary care doctor, internal medicine, to just say, okay, I'm going to open a clinic. It's going to be an urgent care. I'm just going to see patients. And while you might see them packed, and this is the challenge, as soon as they solve the problem and open the gap, then all of a sudden they get flooded with patients. but they may not be making enough money per patient to sustain the staff that is needed in order to give you the quality care. It's not hard to do the math. If you're only getting between $80 and $150 per visit, how many patients you got to see to pay for the doctors and the x-ray techs and the rent, right? How many, what you got to do? So you closing a gap, but now you're going, wait a minute. So that could be a sign of warfare, because they could just say, we're going to just start sending patients. We had that happen to us where they said, we're just going to start sending a bunch of Medicaid patients over there. And because you might be so happy to get all those extra patients, you're trying to see all of those patients, and then you look up and the numbers the math ain't mathing. Now you got a problem. This is one way in which that big box system can create warfare against you. Here's another thing. You could have a small hospital that you buy, and then all of a sudden the big hospital starts sending you a bunch of their ER patients, or they start sending you a bunch of their patients that they really can't help. Or you start getting some very difficult patients and you don't have enough subsurgical specialists to deal with it. These are all ways in which, warfare can be waged against you. People who are in business now, they know once you get busy, once you get bogged down, once there's a problem, we already know what comes after that. There may be some care issues that start to happen. But we already know that your revenue is going to be challenged. But when you create a business model where you're making the money, you're outpacing them, then they have to use another form of warfare. They may send ghost patients in to create false complaints. Ghost patients who will go to the press and say, Dr. So-and-so, the black lady down the street, she ain't doing what she's supposed to do. There's enough people out here committing fraud that once they put that out there, they know people are skittish. So there's that. They send ghost patients in. I've even seen it where doctors at the hospital will backbite against a private physician or a private surgeon, and even to try to deter people from going there. Now, don't go over there to so-and-so. I'm going to send you to my friend over here down the street. They in the same system as me. But you might have that black sister down the street who's a OB-GYN, and she gives excellent care. You may have that black sister down the street who is a geriatric doctor, and she got people looking young and doing a good job, and they getting their vitamin intakes and the electrolytes and the stem cells and whatever else they need. And you see the people coming in and out of there looking good. So everybody wants to go over there to them. There, she's addressing all of their issues. She's making sure that all their comorbidities are managed, or even in some cases eradicated. She is kicking butt and taking names, but that doctor in the hospital that sees that patient throws shade on her. Or sometimes they won't refer to you. So these are all acts of warfare that, we can help you figure out how to deal with in any industry. I see Brother Ronald putting in, he's talking about Macy's closing down, or Macy's having a shift, if you will. Marshall Field's closed. Sears. A lot of these are mergers and acquisitions that happen. A lot of it had a lot to do with the internet. Some of it is supply chain. Some of it is to just get cash so they can cash out. So there's all kind of, things that are happening, and each industry is different. So sometimes when you solve a problem, two things I want you to take away from this conversation. We're going to expound upon it tomorrow. Sometimes when you go into a community and solve a problem, be prepared that you are going to attract enemies. Don't think you're going to open up a grocery store in an area where there's not been a grocery store forever and that the enemies ain't going to come for you. Whether it's in your lending practices, making it hard for you to get capital, whether it's dealing with supply issues. When you have a situation like that, you have to check your supply often, all the time. Because it's much better for the big box store down the street if you, small person in business, close. And they will put you out of business. Send you some bad food, spoiled food, some expired stuff, something crazy. So you got to pay attention to your supply chain. You got to pay attention to the complaints. Some of those people are very powerful and have connections with lobbyists. And so those lobbyists will be in the ear of the regulators. And so then the regulators may have a problem with you. I know a radiologist in Maryland where one of the big box hospital systems opened up right in front of them. This brother had the only 3D mammography machine and computer system in the area. And they sent the state in to say, your certification for your machine is expired. And there's no way it could have been expired because it's brand new. When you buy those machines, it's like buying a car. That you come in, the people you buy it from, they're going to help you get certified. And oftentimes that certification lasts 2 years. And then they come back in and they check it just to make sure that it's not emitting any excess radiation and things like that. Well, in this particular case, they had just bought the machine. They had just gotten their certification. So when the state came in and said, hey, it's expired, y'all got to close down, that was because that big box hospital had went to lobbyists, and the lobbyist has somehow influenced somebody who made a move. And so now they have a lawsuit going. I'm saying all this to say, be mindful. 2 things I want you to take from this conversation is that, one, when you and if you solve a problem, stand in a gap and attempt to close that gap, you may very well attract enemies. Here's the other thing. When you see that happening to someone, do what you can to step in and help, and don't make mockery. Because again, yes, it is just straight up hatred, but it's also the fall of America that's happening. And as the industries are changing and America's warfing, think of something that just keeps changing and moving and people don't know what to do. Some people's response, especially if they're not civilized, is to attack. And so don't you stand there and think, oh, you better than them because they getting attacked. Don't you stand there and go, yeah, that's why I work, because I ain't doing all that and getting attacked, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This is how rapidly things are flowing and changing. All right, y'all. So I wanted to share that with you all today. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of these things. We may, I'll look for a couple of videos that will give you some examples of understanding when you go into business. And here's the other thing. I don't want you all going, okay, that's why I ain't going into business. Some of us don't have a choice. Some people are unemployable. Not because they want to be unemployable, because maybe they look a certain way and people just don't be wanting to hire them. Maybe they're a returning citizen and they have a record, a background, and they really just can't get certain jobs and they got to go into business. Maybe you just got let go from your job and you out here putting resumes out here and going everywhere, but you just can't find anything. So you got to figure out how to do what it is that you do. Sometimes you become so qualified and you do so much that nobody wants to hire you because nobody wants to pay for that level of expertise anymore. So your only other choice is to say, all right, I got to go into business. So let's be a little bit more collaborative towards each other. Let's reach a hand out and help each one teach one. If someone helps you today, then you turn around and reach back and say, okay, now how can I help you? Now, how can I help you become financially independent? How can I use my talents and gifts to be of service to you? Let's think of it that way. And let's also understand that that business model that we see in pop culture is not the only business model. In fact, about it, it's a rarity. And many a times those people they can't even touch the hem of the garment of some of the unknown entrepreneurial heroes that are out here in our community. All right. So family, get your reservation, go to the website, get a reservation for Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Central Time, the Messenger's residence. Only virtual reservations are still available. We're going to be screening another episode of the Messenger's residence. And then we're going to also have a talk back where we'll just have a discussion about it. All right. So thank you all for joining today. I'm going to be announcing something that we're going to be doing on Spotify. So inshallah, we'll be announcing that next week, and we're working on a little commercial for that. So you'll be able to see it. So if you all go and watch it, that'll be great. Continue to spread the word, and support. Make a donation. Y'all know I don't ask for much. I just grind. So any way you can support, we really, really, really appreciate it. Ramadan is coming up. We got a few days left, maybe a week and a half or so. I think it's the 17th. So start prepping for that. Start hydrating yourself. Get your electrolytes in. Get your liquids in so you can be ready and hydrated and ready to go to receive all those beautiful blessings that we get during Ramadan. That's exciting. Savior's Day is coming up. We're going to be there with the commemorative Elijah coins and the book, and you'll see us. We're so excited to. It's just nothing like being around the believers and to be in that energy and that environment. It always pushes you to that next level. I know it always takes me to that next level. I leave Savior's Day on a super high. So we're excited. And I love the topic, I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember exactly, but making our community a better place to live, a safe place to live. That is, whew. And when you think about that, the first thing I thought about when I saw that, I said, you know what? Self-improvement, the basis of community development. Woo. That's some powerful stuff, right? Okay, family. I am going to go. I got to get us ready for tomorrow, and I got tons of stuff to do. I haven't had much sleep, but I'm so excited. I don't necessarily need to sleep until I get ready, right? Maybe Saturday night. Let's see what else I got to tell y'all. I can't think of anything else, but I will see you all, inshallah, tomorrow morning right here on the Sajdah channel. Be a friend, tell a friend, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.